Farmer finds pregnant young woman trapped in a barn. His reaction changes his life. Robert Anderson woke up before sunrise, as he had done for over 30 years. The early morning silence had been his most faithful companion since the big house had become empty. While preparing coffee in the kitchen, he heard a strange sound coming from the direction of the old barn at the back of the property. There were muffled moans, as if someone was in pain. Robert stopped what he was doing and listened carefully. The sound repeated, clearer this time. "Must be some injured animal," he murmured to himself, grabbing the flashlight that always stayed by the door. He quickly put on his boots and went out to the yard. The previous night's storm had left puddles of mud everywhere. He lit his way to the barn, feeling his heart beat faster. Something about that sound didn't seem right. When he got close to the old building, he saw that the door was ajar. The wind had torn off one of the hinges during the rain. Robert carefully pushed the wood and entered, moving the flashlight from side to side. "Is someone there?" he called, his voice echoing in the empty space. A moan answered from the darkest corner of the barn. Robert walked slowly, avoiding old tools and stacked feed bags. The flashlight beam finally found a human figure curled up among wooden beams that had collapsed. "Good heavens," he whispered, quickening his pace. It was a young woman, her face twisted in pain. She wore a beige blouse all dirty with mud, and what caught Robert's attention most was her large, very large belly. The girl was pregnant, and the heavy beams had fallen around her, trapping her in a difficult position. "Please," the young woman's voice came out weak. "Help me." Robert knelt beside her, assessing the situation. The beams weren't on top of her body, but had formed a kind of cage around her. One wrong move and everything could collapse. "Calm down, miss, I'll get you out of there," he said, his voice steady despite the shock. "How did you get in here?" "The storm," she breathed deeply, holding her belly. "I was looking for shelter. I came running when it started raining hard. I didn't know the roof was bad." Robert began carefully removing the smaller beams. Every piece of wood he took out made the structure creak worryingly. The girl closed her eyes, trembling. "Do you live nearby?" asked Robert, trying to keep her calm while he worked. "No." She opened her eyes again, and Robert saw tears streaming down her dirty face. "I came from far away. I was running away." "Running away from what?" The girl hesitated, biting her lip. Another contraction made her moan softly and hold her belly tighter. Robert noticed she was sweating cold, despite the cool morning air. "From my family," she finally answered. "They wanted me to do something I can't do." Robert didn't ask anything more at that moment. He focused on removing the last large beam blocking her exit. With effort, he managed to push it aside. The way was clear. "Can you stand up?" He extended his hand to her. The girl tried, but as soon as she moved, her face turned white and she let out a cry of pain. Her hands tightened around her belly and she looked at Robert with wide, panicked eyes. "No," she whispered. "It can't be now. There are still weeks left." Robert immediately understood what was happening. That girl was going into labor right there in the middle of the abandoned barn, with no medical help nearby. "How long have the pains been going on?" he asked, keeping his voice calm. "Since last night," she was breathing fast. "I thought they would pass, but they're getting stronger and closer together." Robert looked around. The barn was in no condition. He needed to take her into the house, or even better, straight to the hospital. The problem was that the nearest hospital was over an hour away, in the town of Ridgefield. "I'll take you to my house first," he said, slipping his arm under her shoulders to help her up. "Then we'll figure out what to do." "I'm sorry," the young woman murmured as he helped her. "I'm sorry for trespassing on your property like this." "Don't worry about that now. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now, continuing. The walk to the house seemed to take forever. The young woman leaned heavily on Robert, stopping every few steps when the contractions came. He noticed she was very young, probably no more than 20-something. Her brown hair was tangled and full of straw from the barn. When they finally reached the house's porch, Robert helped her sit in an old rocking chair that was there. "What's your name?" he asked, taking off his hat and running his hand through his graying hair. "Emily," she replied, still holding her belly. "Emily Parker. I'm Robert Anderson. I've owned this farm for more years than I care to count." He attempted a smile to calm her. "I'll get some water and call the hospital. You stay here." Emily nodded, tears starting to stream down her face again. Robert quickly went inside the house and filled a glass with water. He also grabbed a clean blanket from the bedroom closet. When he returned to the porch, he found Emily bent forward, breathing deeply and counting softly. 1, 2, 3, 4. She counted to 10 and then slowly let out the air. "Who taught you that?" Robert placed the blanket over her shoulders and offered the water. "A lady I met at the bus station." Emily took a sip. "She saw I was pregnant and gave me some tips. She said breathing like this helps with the pain." Robert picked up the old cell phone that was on the porch table. He dialed the number for the Ridgefield Hospital. After ringing several times, a tired voice answered on the other end. "Community Memorial Hospital, good evening." "Good evening, this is Robert Anderson from Oak Ridge Farm." He spoke quickly. "I have an emergency here. A young woman going into premature labor. She needs urgent help." "Can you bring her to the hospital?" asked the attendant. "Yes, I'm bringing her now, but she's having strong contractions. The baby isn't due for weeks." "We'll get everything ready here. Bring her as quickly as possible." The voice became more alert. "Be careful on the road, there's still a lot of mud from the rain." Robert hung up and looked at Emily. She was watching him with a mixture of fear and hope in her eyes. "We have to go to the hospital now," he said. "Can you walk to the pickup truck?" "I think so." But when Emily tried to stand up, a new wave of pain made her double over. She gripped the arm of the chair so hard her fingers turned white. A scream escaped her lips, loud and full of desperation. Robert realized there was no time. He picked her up, surprised by how light she was despite her large belly. Emily clung to his neck, trembling. He carefully descended the porch steps and walked to where the old pickup truck was parked. He settled Emily in the passenger seat, adjusting the blanket around her. He ran to the driver's side and started the engine. The truck rumbled and almost stalled, but on the third try it caught. Robert accelerated, leaving the yard and taking the dirt road that led to the main highway. "Hang in there, Emily," he said, glancing at her. "We'll be there soon." The road was in terrible condition. The night's rain had opened up holes and formed water-filled ditches. Robert drove as fast as he could, but had to avoid the worst spots to avoid getting stuck or breaking the truck. Emily moaned with every bump. Her hands were clutching her belly, and she had her eyes tightly shut. Robert could see sweat streaming down her face, even with the cold dawn wind coming through the window. "Talk to me, Emily," he pleaded, trying to keep her conscious. "Tell me where you're from." "From Harrisburg," she replied through clenched teeth. "I came here by bus." "Harrisburg is far. Why did you come all this way?" "Because nobody knows me here." Emily opened her eyes and looked out the window. "I just wanted a place where I could stay for a while, to think about what to do." "And your family? Do they know where you are?" "No," her voice hardened. "And I don't want them to. At least not now." Robert didn't insist. He knew all too well the weight of family problems. He himself hadn't spoken to his own daughter in years. The pain of that silence was something he lived with every day. "How did you get hurt in the shed?" He changed the subject. "Were the beams already fallen, or did they fall on you?" "I was sleeping when I heard a noise," Emily recounted. "I woke up scared and tried to get up quickly. I think that's what made the beams fall, or it was the wind, I'm not sure." "You slept there all night?" "Yes. I arrived at your farm when it was already getting dark. I saw the shed open and thought it would be a good place to spend the night. I didn't imagine you lived nearby." "The house is hidden behind the trees," explained Robert. "You can't see it from a distance." Emily's face contorted again. This time the contraction lasted longer. She started counting out loud, only reaching 5 before she screamed. Her hands went down between her legs, and when she pulled them back, Robert saw they were wet. "My water," Emily gasped. "I think my water broke." Robert pressed the accelerator harder. The pickup truck swayed dangerously as it hit a large pothole, but he didn't slow down. They needed to get to the hospital as quickly as possible. The dirt road finally met the asphalt. Robert turned left towards Ridgefield. The sky was beginning to lighten on the horizon, painting everything a pale pink. It would be a beautiful day, he thought, if it weren't for the desperate situation. "Robert," Emily's voice came out weaker, "thank you for helping me. You didn't have to." "Of course I had to," he replied. "No one deserves to go through this alone." "Most people would have called someone, or just offered a phone." Emily turned her head to look at him. "You carried me in your arms." "I wasn't going to let you give birth in the middle of my old shed." Emily tried to smile, but another contraction came. She moaned softly, biting her lower lip so hard it started to bleed a little. Robert saw and frowned, worried. "Don't hold back the pain," he said. "Scream if you need to. There's no one here to hear but me. I don't want to seem weak." "Giving birth isn't weakness, girl." Robert's voice came out harsher than he intended. "It's the strongest thing there is." Emily looked at him, surprised. There was something in the way he spoke, an old sadness that made her wonder about that man's story. But before she could think more about it, the pain returned with full force. This time she screamed, a sharp sound that filled the pickup cab. The minutes dragged on like hours. Robert kept his eyes fixed on the road, his hands tight on the steering wheel. Emily writhed in the seat beside him, the contractions getting closer and closer together. He began to fear they wouldn't make it in time. Finally, the first houses of Ridgefield appeared. The Community Memorial Hospital was at the entrance to the town, an old two-story building painted white. Robert drove into the parking lot honking. Two nurses who were at the door ran to the pickup. "Is it her?" asked one of them, an older woman with her hair in a bun. "Yes." Robert was already opening the door on Emily's side. "She's in premature labor. Her water broke on the way." The nurses acted quickly. They brought a stretcher and helped Emily lie down on it. She grabbed Robert's hand before they took her away. "Stay," she pleaded, her eyes full of fear. "Please don't leave me alone." "I'll stay," he promised, squeezing her hand. "I won't leave here." They all entered the hospital together. The strong smell of disinfectant filled Robert's nose as they walked down a dimly lit corridor. Emily screamed louder and louder, her whole body tense on the stretcher. The nurses took her to an exam room where a doctor was already waiting. "How far along is the pregnancy?" asked the doctor, a young woman with attentive eyes. "Almost 5 weeks early," Emily replied breathlessly. "It shouldn't be happening now." The doctor examined Emily quickly, her hands firm but gentle. Robert stood outside the curtain separating the stretcher, listening to the muffled sounds. After a few minutes, the doctor came out with a serious expression. "The dilation is advanced," she told the nurses. "There's no way to stop the labor now. We'll need to prepare everything for a premature birth." "Will the baby be okay?" Emily called from inside, her voice choked. The doctor went back near her, pulling the curtain. Robert could see Emily lying down, her face wet with tears and sweat. "We'll do everything we can," the doctor replied, "but I need you to cooperate. It's going to be difficult, but you're strong." "I'm not." Emily shook her head. "I'm not strong. I ran away from everything." "Running when you need to is also strength," said Robert, surprising himself. "Sometimes it's the only thing we can do." Emily looked at him, and something in her gaze changed, as if those words had touched something deep. She nodded slowly, taking a deep breath. "Let's take her to the delivery room," announced the doctor. "Sir, are you the father?" "No," Robert replied quickly. "I just found her on my property. She was trapped in a shed." "I see." The doctor looked from Emily to Robert. "But she asked you to stay. Do you want to come along?" Robert hesitated. It wasn't his place there. He barely knew that girl. But when he looked at Emily, he saw the desperation in her eyes. She had no one. She was completely alone at a time like this. "I'll stay," he said, taking off his hat. "If she wants me to stay, I'll stay." Emily reached out her hand again, and Robert held it. The nurses began pushing the stretcher down the hall toward the surgical center. Robert walked alongside, still holding Emily's hand. She squeezed his fingers tightly every time a contraction came. At the door of the delivery room, they made Robert put on a green gown and a mask. He felt ridiculous in those clothes, but went in anyway. The room was small and full of equipment he didn't know the purpose of. There was an incubator in the corner, already prepared and waiting. Emily was transferred to the delivery table. She was shaking so much her teeth were chattering. One nurse covered her legs with a green cloth, while another put an IV in her arm. "Take a deep breath," instructed the doctor, positioning herself between Emily's legs. "When I tell you, you're going to push. Understood?" "I'm scared," Emily cried. "I'm so scared." "I know," the doctor said kindly, "but the baby needs to come out now, and you can do it." Robert stayed near Emily's head, still holding her hand. He didn't know what to do or say, so he just stood there, letting her squeeze his fingers as much as she needed. "Now," the doctor ordered, "push Emily." Emily screamed and pushed. Her whole body contracted. Robert saw the veins bulging in her neck. After 10 seconds that seemed to last forever, the doctor told her to stop. "Rest a bit," she said. "You're doing well." "I can't take it anymore," Emily sobbed. "I can't." "Yes, you can," Robert spoke firmly. "It's almost over." But it wasn't. The labor dragged on longer. Emily pushed when told, rested between contractions, and cried non-stop. Robert stayed there the whole time, letting her squeeze his hand until his bones nearly broke. His shirt was soaked with sweat, but he didn't leave. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the doctor announced, "The head is crowning. One more push, Emily, really hard now." Emily gathered all the strength she had left. She screamed louder than all the previous times. And then, suddenly, another sound filled the room. A thin, high-pitched cry of a newborn baby. "It's a boy," said the doctor, lifting the tiny child. Emily collapsed on the table, exhausted. Tears streamed down her face, but now they were from relief. Robert also felt his eyes sting. There was something so pure, so perfect in that moment that he couldn't hold back the emotion. But the relief was short-lived. The baby's crying stopped suddenly. The doctor quickly took him to a nearby table, where another nurse was waiting. They began working on the baby, making quick and precise movements. "What's happening?" Emily tried to sit up. "Why did he stop crying?" "He's having trouble breathing," replied the doctor without taking her eyes off the baby. "It's normal for preemies. We're going to help him." "My son," Emily wept. "My son, please." Robert didn't know what to do. He stood there frozen, watching the professionals work on the baby. They placed a tiny mask on his face and turned on a machine. After a few seconds that lasted a lifetime, the baby started crying again. But the cry was weak, different from before. "We need to put him in the incubator," the doctor announced. "His lungs aren't fully developed. He'll need help breathing for a while." "Can I see him?" Emily begged. "Just for a little bit." The nurse brought the baby to her, wrapped in a white blanket. Emily looked at her son for the first time. He was so small, so fragile. His eyes still closed, his skin reddish, his tiny fingers clenched into tight fists. "Hi, my love," whispered Emily, tears falling on the blanket. "Mommy is here." The baby didn't respond, just kept breathing with difficulty. The nurse had to take him back, placing him inside the incubator. Emily watched as they connected wires and tubes to her son's tiny body. "Will he be okay?" she asked, her voice trembling. "We'll monitor him closely," replied the doctor, washing her hands. "The next few days will be critical, but premature babies are stronger than they look." Emily was taken to a recovery room. Robert accompanied her, still unsure if he should leave or stay. When they settled her into the room's bed, Emily held his arm. "Thank you," she said, her voice weak, "for everything." "You're welcome," Robert adjusted the blanket over her. "Rest now." "Are you leaving?" "I have to. I need to tend to the animals at the farm." "Will you come back?" Emily asked, her eyes pleading. "Please." Robert looked at that girl, so young and so alone. Something inside him, something that had been dormant for years, awoke. Maybe it was the frustrated fatherhood, the daughter he hadn't seen in so long. Or maybe it was just simple kindness, the desire to help someone in need. "I'll come back," he promised, "later when you wake up." Emily nodded and closed her eyes. Within minutes, she was asleep, exhausted. Robert left the room slowly and went to the waiting area. He sat in a hard plastic chair and stayed there for a few minutes, processing everything that had happened. When he finally got up to leave, the older nurse, the one with the bun, called to him. "Mr. Anderson." "Yes?" "Is the girl your relative?" she asked, curious. "No. I found her on my property this morning." "And you stayed with her the whole time?" the nurse smiled. "You're a good man." "I'm not," Robert shook his head. "I just did what anyone would do." "You'd be surprised how many people wouldn't," she said. "Emily was lucky to find you." Robert didn't respond. He put his hat back on and left the hospital. The morning was clear now, the sun already high in the sky. He got into the pickup truck and drove back to the farm, his mind full of confused thoughts. When he got home, the animals were complaining about the late feeding. Robert tended to them mechanically, throwing feed to the chickens, bringing water to the pigs, feeding the 2 horses he still had. As he worked, he couldn't stop thinking about Emily and the baby. That girl had run away from her family. She was alone, with no resources, no place to stay. And now she had a premature son who needed special care. How was she going to handle all this? It wasn't his problem, Robert tried to convince himself. He had helped as much as he could. He took her to the hospital, stayed during the delivery. That was already more than most would do. He could go back to his life, to his lonely routine, and let Emily solve her own problems. But even thinking that, Robert knew he would return to the hospital. He had promised Emily, and he always kept his promises. They were one of the few things he still had of value. After finishing the work on the farm, Robert took a shower and changed clothes. He made a quick sandwich, ate without tasting it, and went back to the pickup truck. The trip to Ridgefield was etched in his mind now, every curve, every pothole. When he arrived at the hospital, it was already mid-afternoon. He went straight to Emily's room. The door was slightly ajar. He knocked lightly before entering. Emily was awake, sitting in bed. Someone had combed her hair and put a clean nightgown on her. But her eyes were red and swollen from crying so much. "You came back," she said, her voice a little stronger. "I said I would." Robert entered, staying near the door. "How are you?" "In pain. Tired." Emily looked at her hands. "Worried about my son." "Have you heard anything new about him?" "The doctor was here a little while ago. She said he's stable but needs to stay in the incubator for at least 2 weeks, maybe more." Robert nodded. He didn't know what to say. "I have no way to pay for all this," Emily continued, her voice trembling. "I have no money, no health insurance. I have nothing." "The hospital won't charge you now," said Robert. "We'll figure it out later." "Later?" Emily laughed without humor. "There won't be a later. I'll be in debt forever." "One thing at a time." Emily looked at him, and Robert saw the pain in her eyes. It wasn't just physical pain. It was something deeper, older. "Why are you doing this?" she asked. "Helping me like this." Robert took off his hat and spun it in his hands, thinking about the answer. Why was he doing that? He wasn't even sure himself. "Because you needed it," he finally replied. "And because I know what it's like to be alone." "Do you have family?" "I did." The word came out heavier than Robert intended. "A daughter. But we haven't spoken in years." "Why?" "It's a long story." Robert didn't want to go into details. "The important thing is that you're not alone now, at least not today." Emily started to cry again. They weren't tears of sadness, but of relief. Someone cared. Even if it was a stranger, someone was there. "Can I see my son?" she asked. "They still haven't let me go to the neonatal intensive care unit." "I'll ask." Robert left the room and went looking for a nurse. He found the one with the bun at the nursing station. She was writing something on a clipboard. "Excuse me," he called. "Emily wants to see her son. Is it possible?" The nurse looked at him and then at the clock on the wall. "Usually you can only visit every hour," she said, "but I think we can make an exception. She just gave birth. She needs to see that the baby is okay." They went back to the room together. The nurse helped Emily get up and put on a robe. She was still weak, but could walk with support. They went down the hallway to a double door with a large sign, "Neonatal Intensive Care Unit, Restricted Access." "Only the mother can go in," the nurse explained. "Mr. Anderson, you'll have to wait out here." Emily looked at him, uncertain. Robert motioned for her to go. "Go see your boy," he said. "I'll wait." Emily went through the double doors. Robert stayed in the hallway, looking through the small window in the door. He could see Emily approaching one of the incubators, guided by the nurse. He saw her face change when she looked inside, at her son. He stood there for almost 15 minutes. When Emily came out, she was crying again, but these were different tears. There was a small smile on her face. "He's perfect," she told Robert. "So small, but perfect." "What name will you give him?" Emily stopped, thinking. Clearly she hadn't thought about it before. "Noah," she answered after a while. "I've always liked that name." "Noah is a good name," Robert agreed. They went back to the room. Emily lay down again, clearly exhausted from the short walk. Robert adjusted the pillow behind her. "Do you need anything?" he asked. "Food? Clean clothes?" "I didn't bring anything," Emily admitted. "I only left home with the clothes on my back and a backpack with a few things. But I lost the backpack somewhere." "Where did you lose it?" "I don't remember." She closed her eyes. "It was raining hard. It was dark. I think I dropped it on the road when I ran to the shed." Robert thought about the dirt road that led to his farm. The backpack could be anywhere, probably ruined by the rain and mud. "I'll buy some things for you," he said. "What size clothes do you wear?" "You don't have to do that," Emily protested. "You've already done too much." "Yes, you do. You can't keep wearing this hospital gown forever." "I can't pay." "I'm not asking for payment," Robert's voice came out firm. "Let me help, Emily. You need to." Emily looked at him for a long moment. Then she nodded slowly. "Thank you," she whispered. Robert left the hospital once more. There was a small department store in downtown Ridgefield. He went in feeling a bit lost, not really knowing what to look for. A saleswoman approached, seeing the confusion on his face. "Can I help?" she offered. "I need clothes for a young woman," Robert explained, feeling his face grow warm. "But I'm not sure what to buy." "Is it for your daughter?" "No, for an acquaintance." He didn't know how to explain the situation. "She's in the hospital. She had a baby this morning and has no clothes." The saleswoman smiled understandingly. "I'll help you. What size is she?" Robert tried to remember. Emily was thin, not very tall. He guessed a number, and the saleswoman started picking out items. She took 2 pairs of sweatpants, some loose t-shirts, a light jacket, and some underwear. She put everything in a bag. "For the baby, too?" she asked. "Oh, yes," Robert had forgotten. "It's a boy, premature." The saleswoman took him to the baby section. She picked out some tiny clothes suitable for preemies. Onesies, small towels, soft blankets. Robert just watched, feeling completely out of place. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out, now continuing. He paid for everything at the register and went back to the hospital with the bags. When he entered Emily's room, she was sleeping. Robert left the purchases on a chair next to the bed and left without making a sound. In the hallway, he met the doctor who had delivered the baby. She was reviewing a folder of documents. "Doctor," he called, "may I speak with you?" "Of course," she looked at him. "You're Robert, right? The one who stayed with Emily during the delivery." "That's right. I wanted to know about the baby, how he really is." The doctor sighed, closing the folder. "His condition is delicate," she admitted. "His lungs aren't fully developed yet. We're using oxygen to help him breathe. There's also a risk of infection since his immune system is immature. But will he be okay? It's too early to tell. The next few days will show. If he can remain stable, the chances are good." The doctor paused. "But I need to be honest. Preemies this young have complications. It's not a simple situation." Robert absorbed the information. He thought of Emily. So young, so unprepared for all of that. And her. Emily. How is she? Physically, recovering well, but emotionally. The doctor shook her head. She's devastated. Feels it's her fault the baby was born premature. It's not her fault. I know. But she doesn't believe that. The doctor looked at Robert with curiosity. "You're not family, correct?" "No." "Then why are you doing all this?" It was the second time someone had asked him that day. Robert still didn't have a good answer. Because no one else is, he finally said. The doctor nodded, seeming satisfied with the answer. Emily will be discharged in 2 days, she informed, but the baby will need to stay hospitalized for at least 2 more weeks. She'll need a place to stay near the hospital to be able to visit Noah. She can stay at my house, Robert spoke before thinking. I have extra space. Are you sure? She's a stranger. I'm sure. Even as he said it, Robert didn't know if he really was. But he'd already offered. He couldn't take it back now. I'll speak with her then, said the doctor. Thank you, Mr. Anderson. People like you are rare. Robert returned to the farm as the sun began to set. He sat on the porch, in the same spot where he had found Emily that morning. It felt like days had passed, not just a few hours. He thought of his daughter, Sarah. How long had it been since they last spoke? 3 years? 4? He'd lost count. The divorce had been bitter, full of accusations and hurt. Sarah had stayed with her mother, obviously, and over time the relationship between father and daughter simply faded away. Robert never really knew what he had done wrong. Maybe he had worked too much. Maybe he hadn't paid enough attention. Or maybe the marriage had been doomed from the start, and Sarah had just been caught in the middle. Now here he was, helping a stranger and her baby. Maybe he was trying to make up for something, or maybe he just couldn't see someone in trouble and do nothing. The following days fell into a routine. Robert woke up early, tended to the farm, and then went to the hospital. He spent the mornings with Emily, talking, keeping her company. She told him about life in Harrisburg, about her family, about how she found out about the pregnancy. The baby's father, Robert learned, had been a boyfriend of a few months. When Emily told him about the pregnancy, he simply disappeared, blocked her number, moved towns. Emily was left alone to deal with everything. Her family had reacted badly. Her mother cried, her father yelled. They had a social position to maintain, they explained. A single, pregnant daughter was a disgrace. They pressured Emily to consider adoption, said it was best for everyone, especially for the baby. Emily had endured the pressure for months, but when there were only a few weeks left until the delivery, she couldn't take it anymore. She took the money she had saved, bought a bus ticket to the farthest place she could afford, and ran away. I just wanted time, she explained to Robert. Time to think, to decide what to do. I didn't want others deciding for me. And what have you decided? He asked. That I'm keeping my son, Emily said with conviction. No matter what happens, he's mine. I won't give up on him. Robert admired that determination. Emily might be young, but she had a strength many adults lacked. On the 3rd day, Emily was discharged. Robert took her to the farm. She remained quiet during the drive, looking out the window. When they arrived and she saw the big house, her eyes widened. Is this where you live? Alone? Yes. Robert parked. I know it's too big for one person, but it's the house I grew up in. I can't imagine living anywhere else. He helped Emily out of the pickup truck. She was still sore and moved slowly. They entered through the front door, and Robert showed her the house. It had 3 bedrooms, a large kitchen, living room, dining room. Everything a bit old, a bit worn, but clean and organized. You can stay in the bedroom at the back, as he pointed. It was my daughter's room when she lived here. Emily entered the bedroom. There was a single bed, an old wardrobe, a desk. The walls were white, undecorated. A window looked out onto the backyard. It's perfect, said Emily. Thank you, Robert. Really. No need to thank me. Stay as long as you need. Emily sat on the bed, tears coming again. Robert was already used to it. She cried several times a day about her situation, her worry about Noah, her gratitude for the help. I'll let you rest, he said. If you need anything, call me. Emily nodded, lying down on the bed. Robert closed the door slowly and went to the kitchen to prepare something to eat. It had been a long time since he'd cooked for more than one person. He decided to make something simple: rice, beans, grilled chicken. When the food was ready, he called Emily. She came slowly, still moving carefully. They sat at the table and ate in silence. Emily barely touched her food, pushing the rice around her plate. You need to eat, said Robert, to recover. I can't stop thinking about Noah, she confessed. Is he okay? Does he miss me? The doctors are taking care of him. You'll be able to visit him again tomorrow. I know, but it feels so wrong to be here, comfortable, while he's in that incubator alone. He's not alone. There's a whole team caring for him. Robert paused. And you need to be strong when he leaves the hospital. It's no use you getting sick too. Emily knew he was right. She forced herself to eat a few more spoonfuls before giving up. I'm going to sleep, she announced. I'm exhausted. Good night, said Robert. He was alone in the kitchen, finishing his meal. Then he washed the dishes, a mechanical task that always helped him think. He had a stranger living in his house now, a young woman he'd met only 3 days ago. What had gotten into him to offer this? But even questioning himself, Robert knew he'd do it all over again. There was something about Emily, a vulnerability mixed with strength, that touched him. She reminded him of Sarah in some ways, that stubbornness, that determination to do things her way. He thought about calling his ex-wife asking about Sarah, but he dismissed the idea. Jennifer probably wouldn't even answer, and if she did, it would only lead to a fight. They'd already fought enough for a lifetime. The days began to follow a pattern. Robert woke up early, tended to the farm. Emily woke up later, still recovering. They had breakfast together, a silent but comfortable meal. Then they went to the hospital. Emily spent hours in the neonatal intensive care unit, sitting beside Noah's incubator. She talked to him, sang softly, put her hand through the incubator portholes to touch his tiny fingers. Robert waited in the waiting room, reading old newspapers or just looking out the window. Noah was improving slowly, very slowly. Each day was a small victory. One day he could breathe better, another day he nursed a little more. But there were also setbacks, days when he had a fever, days when he rejected the milk, days when the monitors beeped and nurses came running. Emily lived on an emotional roller coaster. Robert saw her oscillate between hope and despair several times a day. He tried to be a constant support, a calm presence in the midst of the chaos. 1 week after Emily had come to live on the farm, something happened that changed everything. They were at the hospital during the normal visiting hours when a woman entered the neonatal intensive care unit looking for Emily. She was a middle-aged woman, well-dressed with dyed blonde hair and heavy makeup. She stopped at the door when she saw Emily sitting beside the incubator. "Emily," she called, her voice full of conflicting emotions. Emily turned her head and froze. Her face went white. "Aunt Patricia," she whispered. The woman approached, her high heels making noise on the floor. She looked into the incubator, at the baby sleeping there. "So it's true," she said. "You had the baby." "How did you find me?" Emily asked, her voice trembling. "It wasn't difficult." Patricia crossed her arms. "A nurse here is a friend of one of your cousins. She recognized your name when you were admitted. She called your mother yesterday." Emily closed her eyes. Robert, who was at the door observing, saw her shoulders slump in defeat. "Does my mother know?" "Everyone knows now," Patricia replied. "Your mother is desperate, Emily. Your father is furious. How could you just disappear like that?" "I had to." Emily opened her eyes, and there was a spark of anger there now. "I had to get out of there. You weren't listening to me. We were trying to help you." "You weren't. You were trying to control me." Emily stood up, even with the pain. "Decide my life for me. You're 22 years old, Emily. You can barely take care of yourself. How are you going to take care of a baby?" "I'll manage." "With what money? Where will you live?" Patricia looked around as if searching for answers. "You ran away with nothing. Where are you living now?" "That doesn't matter," Emily didn't want to tell. But Robert decided to reveal himself. He entered the NICU, taking off his hat. "She's living on my farm," he said, his voice calm. Patricia turned to him, her eyes widening. "And who are you?" "Robert Anderson, owner of Oak Ridge Farm." "And what do you have to do with my niece?" Patricia's tone was accusatory. "I found her on my property. I helped her get to the hospital." Robert wasn't intimidated by the woman's gaze. "And I offered her a place to stay while the baby is hospitalized." "How convenient." Patricia practically spat the words. "A man nobody knows, offering help to a vulnerable girl. What do you want in return?" "Patricia," Emily protested, horrified. "It's a valid question." Patricia didn't take her eyes off Robert. Nobody does anything for free these days. I do. Robert put his hat back on, without expecting anything in return. I don't believe that. You don't have to believe it, but Emily is well cared for. The baby, too. Patricia turned to Emily again. You need to come home. Your family can really help you, not this stranger. I'm not going back, Emily said firmly. Not while you all want me to give up my son. Nobody is asking for that anymore. Patricia softened her tone. Your mother has come to understand. She wants to help you now. For real. I don't believe it. Emily shook her head. She spent months pressuring me. She didn't change her mind overnight. She changed when you disappeared. Patricia sat in a chair, seeming suddenly tired. She realized she was going to lose you for good, that it wasn't worth losing a daughter over pride. Emily looked at Robert, confused. He shrugged, making it clear the decision was hers. I need to think, Emily finally said. There's not much to think about, Patricia insisted. Your family has resources. We can pay for the baby's treatment, give you a place to live, help you find a job. What can this farmer offer that compares to that? Robert felt a pang in his chest at her words. It was true. He didn't have much to offer beyond a roof and food. He couldn't pay for Noah's medical care, couldn't guarantee Emily's future. He was just an old man living alone on a farm. The difference, Emily spoke slowly, is that Robert treats me like an adult. He doesn't try to decide for me. You're an adult in age, Patricia retorted, but you still act like a child. Running away from problems isn't a solution. I didn't run away from problems. I ran away from the pressure. Emily raised her voice. There's a difference. Emily... No, Aunt Patricia. Let me speak. Emily took a deep breath. You spent months telling me what to do, saying I wasn't capable, that I would ruin my life, that the baby would suffer. No one asked what I wanted. No one supported me. We were protecting you. You weren't. You were protecting the family's reputation. The words came out bitter. You were ashamed of me. Patricia fell silent, because deep down, she knew Emily was right. Things will be different now, she promised. Your mother realized her mistake. I'll think about it, Emily repeated, but I won't make any decision right now. I need to focus on Noah. Patricia sighed, seeing she wouldn't be able to convince her niece at that moment. She stood up, adjusting her purse on her shoulder. I'll come back tomorrow, she announced, and I'll bring your mother with me. You need to at least talk to her. After Patricia left, Emily collapsed into the chair. She started crying, her hands trembling. I don't want to go back, she told Robert, but she's right. How will I take care of Noah alone? I have nothing. You're not alone, Robert sat beside her, and as for the rest, we'll figure it out. We always do. How can you be so sure? Because I've been through hard times, and I've always survived. Emily looked at him, tears still streaming. Tell me, about your daughter. What happened? Robert hesitated. He didn't like talking about it. But Emily had shared her story with him. It was only fair that he do the same. Sarah was 12 when I separated from her mother, he began. It was a bad divorce. Lots of fights, lots of accusations. Jennifer, my ex-wife, got custody. I could see Sarah on weekends. And did you? At first, yes. But Jennifer made everything difficult. She changed schedules at the last minute, made up excuses, and Sarah started to become more distant, influenced by her mother, I suppose. How old is she now? 26, Robert calculated. It's been 4 years since we last spoke. Did you try to get in touch? I tried at first, but she didn't respond. Then I changed my number, lost hers, and then I let it go. I thought it was better that way, that she had her own life and didn't need a father who only brought problems. You don't know if that's true, Emily said softly. Maybe she's waiting for you to reach out again. Or maybe she's forgotten me. Robert stood up. Either way, it's too late now. It's never too late for family. Robert didn't respond. He changed the subject, asking if Emily wanted to have lunch. She accepted, and they left the hospital together. On the way to the diner, neither of them spoke much, each lost in their own thoughts. That night back at the farm, Robert stayed up late, Sitting on the porch, looking at the stars, he thought about Sarah. Was Emily right? Was it possible to fix that relationship after so long? He picked up his phone, thinking about calling Jennifer to ask for Sarah's number, but he gave up. She didn't know what to say. How to start a conversation after 4 years of silence. In the room, Emily also couldn't sleep. She thought about her aunt's visit, about her words. Had the family really changed, or was it just another attempt to control her life? She picked up her phone and looked at the blocked contacts. Her mother's number was still there. Her finger hovered over the unblock button, but she didn't press it. Not yet. She needed more time. The next day, Patricia returned to the hospital, as promised, and she brought Emily's mother with her. Barbara Parker was an elegant woman, with the same brown hair as her daughter, but cut in a shorter style. She wore gold-rimmed glasses and had a nervous expression on her face. When she saw Emily in the neonatal intensive care unit, Barbara couldn't hold back her tears. She ran and hugged her daughter, holding her tight. "My daughter," she cried, "my girl, I was so worried." Emily stiffened in the hug, not returning it. When Barbara finally let her go, she took a step back. "I came because my aunt insisted," she said, her voice cold. "Not because I want to come back home." "I know," Barbara wiped her tears. "And I didn't come to pressure you, I just wanted to see if you're okay. And to meet my grandson." Emily watched her mother with suspicion, but there was something genuine in Barbara's expression, something different from the last time they had seen each other. "He's here," Emily pointed to the incubator. Barbara approached slowly. She looked inside and saw Noah sleeping, so small and fragile. The tears returned, stronger this time. "He's so small," she whispered. "Will he be okay?" "The doctors say yes, but it will take time." Barbara stood there, just looking at her grandson. Emily saw when her mother's face transformed. She saw when Barbara understood, truly understood, that this was a human being, her grandson. Not a shame, not a problem, a child. "I'm sorry," Barbara finally said without taking her eyes off Noah. "Sorry for everything I said, for how I treated you. I was wrong." Emily hadn't expected that. She had prepared for more pressure, more arguments, not for an apology. "You were right," Barbara continued, turning to her daughter. "I was more worried about what others would think than about you. About your feelings, your desires. I was a terrible mother. Mom—" "No, let me speak." Barbara held Emily's hands. "When you disappeared, I went crazy. I thought I had lost you forever, that you could be in danger or worse. And I realized that none of that mattered. Reputation, other people's opinions, none of it is worth anything if I lose my daughter." Emily began to cry. There were so many mixed emotions: anger, relief, hurt, love. "You hurt me a lot," she said, her voice choked. "Your words, the things you said about me, about my son, they hurt a lot. I know, and I'll spend the rest of my life trying to make it up to you." Barbara pulled Emily into another hug. This time, Emily returned it. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out, now continuing. Mother and daughter stayed embraced for a long time, crying together. Patricia watched from the door, also with tears in her eyes. Robert, who had been waiting in the waiting room, saw the scene from afar and felt a tightness in his chest. He thought of Sarah, of how much time he had wasted. When they finally separated, Barbara wiped her face and tried to compose herself. "I want to help you," she said to Emily. "For real this time. Not to control, but to support. Whatever you need." "I don't want to go back to Harrisburg," Emily made it clear. "Not yet. I need to stay near the hospital while Noah is hospitalized." "That's fine. We can rent an apartment nearby for you." "You don't need to. I'm staying somewhere." "Where?" Emily hesitated, but decided to tell. "At the farm of a man named Robert. He helped me when I needed it." Barbara exchanged a glance with Patricia. Her aunt had clearly already told her about Robert. "I'd like to meet him," said Barbara, "to thank him personally." They went together to the waiting room. Robert was sitting, scrolling through his phone. He stood up when he saw the three women approaching. Mom, this is Robert Anderson. Emily made the introductions. Robert, my mother, Barbara Parker. Barbara extended her hand, which Robert shook gently. Nice to meet you, she said. I want to thank you for taking care of my daughter. It was the least I could do, Robert replied. Patricia told me Emily is living at your farm. Is that true? Yes. She's in the guest room. Everything very proper, Robert clarified in case there were any doubts. I wasn't questioning, Barbara said quickly. I just wanted to know if there's anything you need. Some way to repay your hospitality. I don't need anything. But I insist. At least let me pay for food for extra expenses. Robert was about to refuse, but Emily touched his arm. Let her help, she whispered. It'll make her feel better. He sighed and agreed. Barbara looked visibly relieved. She took a checkbook from her purse and filled one out, handing it to Robert. He looked at the amount and nearly choked. This is too much, he protested. It's not, Barbara insisted. My daughter and grandson are alive and well cared for because of you. This money doesn't even cover half of my gratitude. Robert put the check in his pocket, still feeling uncomfortable. He hadn't done it for money, but he understood that for Barbara, being able to contribute financially made her feel like she was helping in some way. Barbara and Patricia stayed at the hospital a while longer, talking with Emily about Noah, about the next steps. Barbara wanted to pay for all the medical care, and Emily accepted. It would be prideful to refuse help when her son needed it. Before leaving, Barbara pulled Robert aside. May I speak with you for a minute? She asked. Of course. They moved a little away from the others. Barbara looked at him seriously. I know you don't know me, she began, and you must think I'm a terrible mother for what I did to Emily. It's not my place to judge. Even so, I want to explain, Barbara sighed. I come from a very traditional family. I married as a virgin, had Emily within marriage, always did everything the right way. And when she showed up pregnant, single, out of nowhere, I panicked. I understand. No, you don't, Barbara shook her head. No one does. Because it's not just about reputation. It's about fear. Fear that she'll suffer, that her life will be hard. I thought if she gave the baby up for adoption, she could start over. Finish college, get a good job, marry someone decent. But she doesn't want that. I know that now. Barbara looked over to where Emily was talking with Patricia. And I know that forcing her would mean losing her forever, so I'll support her, even if I think she's making a mistake. You still think that? That it's a mistake? I don't know, she answered honestly, but I know it's her choice. And as a mother, my role is to support, not control. Robert nodded, respecting her honesty. Emily is going to need a lot of support, he said. It won't be easy. I know. But I'm willing to do whatever it takes. Barbara paused. And what about you? Will you keep helping? As long as she needs. Why? The question came out curious, not accusatory. What do you get out of it? Nothing, Robert shrugged. But maybe I'm trying to make up for past mistakes, or maybe I just can't see someone in need and do nothing. Whatever the reason, I'm grateful. Barbara touched his arm. And if Emily decides to keep living at your farm, I'll respect that. But I'd like to visit, see where she is, get to know you better. You'd be welcome, Robert agreed. After Barbara and Patricia left, Emily felt more cheerful. The conversation with her mother had lifted a huge weight off her shoulders. There were still resentments, still things to work out. But it was a start. On the way back to the farm, Emily was more talkative than usual. She talked about her childhood, about how her mother had always been very strict, but also very loving in her own way. She spoke about her father, a more distant man, always focused on work. She had a younger brother, Jason, who was in college now. My family isn't perfect, she said, but deep down they care. They just needed a scare to realize it. Families are never perfect, Robert commented. We just do the best we can. You should call your daughter, Emily said suddenly. Try to talk to her. It's not that simple. I know. But you saw today what happened with my mother and me. We were fighting, with so much bitterness, and all it took was an honest conversation to start fixing it. Sarah might not want to talk to me, Or she might be waiting for you to make the first move, Emily insisted. You'll never know if you don't try. Robert drove in silence, thinking about her words. Maybe Emily was right. Maybe it was time to try again. That night after dinner, Robert picked up the house landline. He searched in an old box of papers until he found an old address book. There was Jennifer's number, probably outdated, but it was all he had. He dialed with trembling fingers. The phone rang once, twice, 3 times. Just as he was about to hang up, someone answered. Hello? It was Jennifer's voice, older but still recognizable. Jennifer, it's me, Robert. Silence on the other end. Robert almost thought she had hung up. Robert, Jennifer finally spoke. After 4 years, you call. I know, I'm sorry I didn't call sooner. What do you want? I wanted to talk to Sarah. See how she is. Now you care? Jennifer's voice was heavy with resentment. I always cared. I just didn't know how to reach out. You could have tried harder, Jennifer said harshly. She wrote you letters at the beginning, you know. Letters you never answered. Robert felt as if he had been punched. I never got any letters. Of course you did. I sent them to the farm's address. I swear I didn't get them, Robert tried to think. Then he remembered. 4 years ago he had moved the mailbox. Many letters got lost back then. There was a problem with the mail. Several things got lost. How convenient. Jennifer, please. I'm not calling to fight. I just want to talk to my daughter. Another silence. Robert heard Jennifer sigh on the other end. She lives alone now, she said finally. Finished college, got a job, she's doing well. That's good, I'm happy for her. Are you really? I am, Robert spoke sincerely. I always wanted her to be happy. Then why did you disappear from her life? Jennifer's voice grew softer, less angry. Now there was only hurt. She needed you, Robert. She needed her father. I know, and I regret every day not fighting harder. You gave up too easily, Jennifer accused. At the first obstacle you turned your back. Because I thought it was better that way. That you two would be better off without me. We weren't. Sarah cried for months. She asked every week when she would see her father. And I had to make up excuses, say you were busy, that the farm took all your time. I'm sorry, was all Robert could say. I'm sorry for abandoning her. For failing. Jennifer was quiet for a moment. Why are you calling now? She asked. After all this time, because... Robert thought of Emily, of Noah. Because I met someone who made me see that it's never too late to try and fix things. You're seeing someone? Jennifer asked, surprised. No, that's not it, Robert quickly explained. It's a long story. But the point is, she made me realize I wasted too much time. Well, good thing you realized, Jennifer spoke, and there was a less harsh tone now. Sarah will be surprised when she finds out you called. Are you going to tell her? I will, and I'll give her your number. If she wants to call, she will. If she doesn't, you'll have to respect that. I understand, Robert said. Thank you, Jennifer. Don't thank me yet. Sarah might not want to talk to you. I know, but at least I tried. They hung up. Robert stood still with the phone in his hand, his heart beating fast. He had taken the first step. Now all that was left was to wait. Emily appeared in the living room, seeing the phone in his hand. Did you call? She asked. I did. Jennifer. And? She's going to talk to Sarah, give her my number, but I don't know if she'll call. She will, Emily said with conviction. It might take time, but she will. Robert wanted to believe that. He put the phone back in its place and went to the porch. Emily followed him and they both sat in the rocking chairs. The sky was full of stars, as it always was in the countryside. Thank you, Robert said suddenly. Why? For making me try again. I had given up. Sometimes we need a little push, Emily smiled. I had given up on a lot of things too, until I met you. They stayed there, talking late into the night, sharing stories, dividing hopes and fears. An unlikely friendship had formed between them. The lonely farmer and the young runaway mother, united by circumstances, but starting to truly care for each other. The days kept passing. Noah improved every day. His lungs grew stronger. He started feeding better. He gained weight. The nurses said he could soon leave the incubator. Emily visited every day, sometimes twice a day. Robert always went along, waiting patiently while she was with her son. Barbara also started visiting regularly, driving from Harrisburg every week. The relationship between mother and daughter was slowly healing. One afternoon, 2 weeks after the birth, something unexpected happened. Emily was in the neonatal intensive care unit when a young man entered, looking around nervously. He was tall, thin, with dark hair and a scruffy beard. A nurse guided him to Noah's incubator. Emily was sitting there, singing softly to her son. When she saw the young man, she froze. "Tyler," she whispered, the name coming out like an accusation. The young man stopped, hands in his pockets. He looked ashamed, scared. "Hi, Emily. What are you doing here?" "Your aunt called me, told me about the baby." Tyler looked into the incubator. "I wanted to see." "Now you want to see?" Emily stood up, anger taking over. "After disappearing when I needed you the most?" "I know, I was a coward." Tyler ran his hand through his hair. "I panicked. I didn't know what to do. You could have stayed. You could have talked to me." "I know, and I regret it every day." Emily crossed her arms, her whole body tense. Robert, who was in the waiting room, saw the commotion and approached. He stood in the doorway, ready to intervene if necessary. "Is this my son?" Tyler asked, his voice breaking. "Yes," Emily answered. "Not that you deserve to know him." Tyler seemed to have been slapped, but he didn't argue. He just stood there, looking at the baby. "He's premature because of me," Emily continued, tears starting. "Because I was stressed, because I had to run away from my family, because you abandoned me." "Emily, no. You have no right to show up here now and want to be part of this. You lost that right." Tyler lowered his head. "Tyler." When he looked up again, he was crying too. "You're right. I was a piece of shit. I wasn't man enough to take responsibility." He wiped his tears with the back of his hand. "But I want to try now. I want to know my son. I want to be a father, even if it's late." "Late? It's too early. He hasn't even left the hospital yet." "I know. But I'm here, and I'll keep being here if you let me." Emily looked at Robert, seeking guidance. He approached, placing a hand on her shoulder. "The decision is yours," he said softly. "But think it through. You don't need to decide anything right now." Emily nodded. She turned to Tyler again. "I'll think about it," she said. "But I'm not promising anything. You hurt me deeply." "I understand." Tyler looked at Noah once more. "Can I know his name?" "Noah." "Noah," Tyler repeated, a sad smile on his lips. "It's a beautiful name." Emily asked Tyler to leave. He obeyed, but before going he left a phone number with her. He said he wanted to pay child support, help with whatever was needed. Emily took the paper but didn't promise to call. After Tyler left, Emily collapsed into the chair, her head in her hands. Robert sat beside her, waiting in silence. "I don't know what to do," Emily confessed. "Part of me wants to tell him to go to hell, but another part thinks Noah deserves to know his father." "You don't need to decide now," Robert repeated. "Let time pass. See if Tyler is really serious or if it's just temporary guilt. How will I know? If he comes back. If he keeps trying, then you'll know." Emily nodded but still seemed confused. Robert understood. Family decisions were never easy. He himself was facing a similar one, waiting for a phone call that might never come. That night, back at the farm, Robert was washing the dinner dishes when the phone rang. He dried his hands and answered. "Hello? Dad?" The voice on the other end was hesitant but unmistakable. Robert felt his legs weaken. He held the phone tighter. "Sarah?" "Yes, it's me." They were silent for a moment, neither knowing what to say first. "Mom called me," Sarah finally spoke. "She said you asked for my number." "I did. I wanted to know how you are." "I'm fine," her voice was cautious. "I finished college. I work as an architect now." "Architect?" Robert smiled. I always knew you'd be good at that. Since you were little, you liked drawing houses. You remember that? I remember a lot of things, Sarah, more than you think. Another silence. Robert could hear her breathing on the other end. Why did you call after so long? Sarah asked, and there was hurt in her voice. 4 years, Dad. 4 years without a word. I know. And I don't have a good excuse for that, Robert admitted. I thought it was better to leave you alone, that I was messing up your life. You were absent from my life. It's different. Your mum said you wrote me letters. I swear I never received any. I didn't get a reply to any of them. There was a problem with the mail here. Several things got lost, Robert explained. But that doesn't matter. What matters is that I was a coward. I should have fought harder to stay in touch. Yes, you should have, Sarah agreed, her voice firm. But you didn't. You just disappeared. I regret that every day. Regret doesn't change the past, Sarah said, and Robert could hear the tears in her voice now. You missed so much. My graduation, my first job, my first apartment, everything. I know. Robert's own tears began to fall, and I'll never be able to get that time back. But I want to try to be present from now on, if you let me. I don't know if I can, Sarah sobbed. You hurt me so much, Dad, not being important enough for you to fight for me. Sarah, listen, you were always important, the most important thing. I'm the one who failed. I'm the one who didn't know how to handle the divorce, the distance, everything. Robert sat down, his legs shaking too much to keep standing. But I'm trying to be better now. Why? What changed? Robert thought of Emily, of Noah, of that whole surreal situation. I met a woman who made me see things differently, he explained. She made me realize I'm wasting time, and that if I don't try now, I'll regret it forever. Are you seeing someone? Sarah asked, surprised. No, Robert quickly clarified. It's a long story, but the point is, she helped me see there's still time, that I can try to fix my mistakes. Sarah stayed quiet. Robert could hear her breathing, thinking. I need time, she finally said. To process all this, I can't just go back to having a father-daughter relationship as if nothing happened. I understand. But I also don't want to waste more time, Sarah continued, so we can take it slow, talk on the phone for now. See how it goes. Yes, Robert quickly agreed. Anything, however you want. Okay, Sarah sighed. I'll think about all this, and I'll call you again. Sarah, before you hang up, Robert spoke quickly. I love you. I've always loved you. Even when I was away, even when I did everything wrong, I've always loved you. He heard a sob from the other side. Then Sarah's fragile voice. I love you too, Dad. That's why it hurts so much. They hung up. Robert sat with the phone in his hand, tears flowing freely now. Emily appeared in the room, having heard part of the conversation. Did she call? She asked softly. Robert just nodded, unable to speak. Emily approached and hugged him. He let her, resting his head on her shoulder, as he cried out all the years of pain and regret. That night, the two stayed up talking late. Robert told Emily about Sarah, about the conversation, about the confused emotions he was feeling. Emily listened to everything, offering support and encouragement. You'll win her back, she said with certainty. It'll just take time. What if she can't forgive me? She will, because you love each other, and love always finds a way. Robert wanted to believe that. He held tightly to that hope. The following days were a mix of emotions for everyone. Noah continued improving and was almost ready to come out of the incubator. Tyler came back to the hospital twice, trying to talk to Emily. She sent him away both times, but started considering giving him a chance. Barbara and Patricia visited again, bringing clothes and gifts for Noah. The family was slowly coming together, healing old wounds. Robert watched everything from a distance, happy for Emily, but also feeling an emptiness. Sarah still hadn't called again. Until 1 week after the first call, she called again. This time the conversation was longer. Sarah talked about work, about friends, about life in general. Robert listened to everything attentively, asking questions, showing genuine interest. At the end of the call, Sarah asked a question that surprised Robert. Can you tell me about this woman, the one who made you change your mind? Robert told the whole story. How he'd found Emily in the shed, the premature birth, how she was living at the farm. Sarah listened to everything in silence. "You were always good at helping strangers," she commented at the end, "but had trouble being present for family." The observation hurt, but it was true. "I know," he admitted, "but I'm learning, and if you want, I'd like you to come here someday. See the farm again. Meet Emily and Noah." "Maybe," Sarah said. "I'll think about it." It was the best Robert could hope for now. 2 more weeks passed. Noah finally came out of the incubator. He still needed monitoring, but was breathing on his own and gaining weight well. Emily was radiant when they could put him in a normal crib. It was also around this time that something unexpected happened. Robert was at the farm fixing a fence when he saw an unfamiliar car coming up the dirt road. It was a small white car that stopped near the house. A woman got out. Robert needed a few seconds to recognize her. It was Sarah. She was there at the farm. After 4 years, his daughter had returned. Robert dropped the hammer and walked toward her, his heart pounding. Sarah stood still by the car, nervous. She was taller than he remembered, or maybe he had shrunk. Her hair was shorter, dyed a lighter brown. But her eyes, those brown eyes, were the same. "Hi, Dad," she said, her voice trembling. "Sarah." Robert stopped a few feet away from her, unsure whether to hug her or not. "You came." "Surprised?" "Completely." They stood there, looking at each other. 4 years of distance between them, an abyss of hurt and unspoken words. "Can I hug you?" Robert asked. Sarah hesitated, but then nodded. Robert approached and wrapped his arms around her. She was stiff at first, but then relaxed, returning the hug. They stayed like that for a long moment, father and daughter reunited. "I'm sorry," Robert whispered, "for everything, for failing you." "I'm sorry too," Sarah replied, "for pulling away, for not trying harder." When they separated, both were crying. Robert wiped the tears from his face and smiled. "Want to come in? See the house?" "Yes." Sarah looked around. "It's been so long, I barely remember what it was like." They went in together. The house was a bit tidier than it used to be, because Emily always insisted on helping with the cleaning. Sarah looked at each room with nostalgia, touching furniture that was familiar yet strange. "My room is the same," she commented upon seeing the room where Emily was staying. "I didn't change anything," Robert admitted. "I always hoped you'd come back one day." Emily chose that moment to return from the hospital. She came in through the front door with shopping bags and stopped when she saw Sarah. "Hi," she said, surprised. "You must be Sarah." "And you must be Emily," Sarah replied, studying the younger woman. "Your father talks about you a lot," Emily smiled. "It's good to finally meet you." "He talks about you too." Sarah looked from one to the other. "Thank you for helping him call me." "Oh, he made the tough choice. I just gave a little nudge." The 2 women studied each other for a moment. Then Emily extended her hand, which Sarah shook. It was a start. The 3 spent the afternoon together. Robert made coffee, and they sat on the porch talking. Sarah told them about her life in detail, things she hadn't mentioned on the phone. Emily shared her story too, and Sarah listened with attention and empathy. "Do you want to meet Noah?" Emily offered. "Tomorrow I'm going to the hospital. You can come along." "I'd love to," Sarah accepted. When the afternoon began turning to evening, Sarah said she needed to go. She had rented a room at an inn in Ridgefield for the weekend. "You can stay here," Robert offered. "There's space." "Thank you. But I think it's better to take it slow," Sarah said gently. "I'll come back tomorrow if that's okay." "Of course, whenever you want." Sarah hugged her father again, this time for longer. She hugged Emily too, thanking her for taking care of Robert. Then she got in the car and drove away, waving from the window. Robert stayed on the porch watching the car disappear down the road. Emily came to sit beside him. "She's great," she commented. "Yes," Robert agreed, his chest swelling with pride and relief. "She always was." "You two will be okay," Emily said with certainty. "I saw the way she looks at you. She still loves you. She was just hurt." "I hope you're right." "I am," Emily smiled. "Now it's just a matter of what you're going to do about Tyler." Emily had been avoiding that decision, but she knew she couldn't any longer. Tyler had come back to the hospital 4 times in the last 2 weeks. Always respectful, always humble. He only asked to see Noah from a distance, didn't push for anything more. "I think I'll give him a chance," she said finally. "A very small chance. But one chance. Do you think he deserves it?" "I don't know. But Noah deserves to have a father. If Tyler is really willing to take responsibility, I can't deny that to my son." Emily paused. "But I'll be careful. I won't let him hurt Noah." "Good decision," Robert approved. The next day, Sarah returned as promised. The 3 went together to the hospital. Sarah met Noah and was delighted with the tiny baby. She held him carefully while Emily instructed her on how to support his little head. "He's perfect," Sarah whispered. "Yes," Emily agreed, proud. It was during this visit that Tyler showed up again. He entered the neonatal intensive care unit and stopped when he saw 3 people around Noah's incubator. Emily saw him first. "Tyler," she called. "Come here." He approached hesitantly. Sarah stepped back, giving space, but stayed near Robert, watching. "I decided to give you a chance," Emily announced. "A chance to get to know Noah, to be a real father." "Really?" Tyler's eyes lit up. "Thank you, Emily. I swear I won't disappoint." "There will be rules," Emily made clear. "You can't disappear again. If you say you'll be here, you have to be. Noah doesn't deserve a father who comes and goes. I promise. I'll be present. And you have to take on financial responsibilities. Diapers, milk, clothes, doctors, everything." "Yes, of course. I've already started saving money for child support." Emily looked at him, assessing if he was being sincere. She decided to believe, at least for now. "Do you want to hold him?" she offered. Tyler looked at Emily, then at Noah, and tears started to fall. "May I?" Emily took Noah from the incubator and carefully placed him in Tyler's arms. The young man held his son for the first time, trembling with emotion. Noah opened his little eyes and seemed to look directly at his father. "Hi, Noah," Tyler whispered. "I'm your father, and I promise I'll be the best father I can be." Everyone in the room was moved. Even Robert, who had his doubts about Tyler, felt his eyes burning. There was something so pure in that moment, a new beginning. After a while, Emily took Noah back. Tyler thanked her several times before leaving, promising to return the next day. Emily watched him go, hopeful but cautious. "You did the right thing," Sarah told her. "Giving him a chance." "I hope so," Emily sighed. Sarah and Robert stayed at the hospital until the afternoon. They talked about many things, beginning to rebuild the bridge between them. When Sarah left at the end of the day, she promised to return soon. "Maybe I can stay at the farm next time," she said, "if the invitation still stands." "It will always stand," Robert assured. They hugged again, each hug becoming easier, more natural. Sarah got in the car and went back to the city, but this time Robert knew it wouldn't be another 4 years before he saw her again. The following weeks were full of constant changes. Noah was finally discharged from the hospital 1 month after his birth. Emily took him to the farm, and for the first time mother and son were together at home. Robert helped prepare the room, assembling a crib he had bought, organizing a changing table, and all the other necessary items. The house suddenly became full of life, with baby cries in the middle of the night and the smell of baby powder and milk. Sarah visited on weekends. She and Emily had developed a genuine friendship. 2 women from different generations, but with similar experiences of family conflict. Sarah talked about challenges at work. Emily shared the difficulties of being a first-time mother. Tyler also began visiting regularly. At first, Emily was tense during the visits, always alert for any sign that he would give up again. But weeks passed and Tyler kept showing up. He helped with diapers, woke up early to make bottles, learned how to calm Noah when he cried. "He's really trying," Emily admitted to Robert one night. "I didn't think he'd last." "Sometimes people surprise you," Robert replied, "for better or worse." Barbara visited whenever she could, bringing gifts and offering grandmotherly advice. The relationship between her and Emily was stronger than ever. Jennifer, Robert's ex-wife, also showed up once, brought by Sarah. It was an awkward meeting at first, but everyone behaved civilly. "How you look well," Jennifer said to Robert at the end of the visit. "Lighter than I remember." "I have reasons to be." Robert looked around at the house full of people. "After so long alone, I have a family again. Even if it's not exactly the way I imagined." Jennifer smiled, a genuine smile without resentment. "I'm happy for you, and for Sarah. It's good to see you together again." "Thank you for giving my daughter back to me," Robert said sincerely. "You're the one who won her back," Jennifer corrected. "I just passed the phone." 3 months after Noah's birth, life on the farm had found a rhythm. Emily still lived there, but had started making plans. She was looking for a job in Ridgefield, something that would let her stay close but also gain independence. "You don't have to leave," Robert said when she told him about the plans. "You can stay as long as you want." "I know, and I'm very grateful for everything," Emily held his hand. "But I need to build my own life, for me and for Noah. I can't depend on your generosity forever." "It's not generosity, it's—" Robert searched for the right word. "It's family." Emily smiled, her eyes filling with tears. "You really have become family," she agreed. "But still, I need to take this step, do you understand?" "I understand," Robert squeezed her hand. "But the door is always open. If you need anything, just say so." A week later, something happened that changed everyone's plans. Robert was in the barn organizing tools when he heard Emily scream from the house. He dropped everything and ran, his heart racing. He found Emily in the living room holding a letter. She was pale, trembling. "What is it?" asked Robert. "What happened?" "It's from my father." Emily showed the letter. "He's sick. Very sick." Robert took the letter and read it quickly. It was from Emily's father, written in his own hand, the handwriting shaky. He said he had been diagnosed with a serious illness. He didn't go into many details, but the tone of the letter made it clear it was serious. "I need to go to Harrisburg," Emily decided. "I need to see him." "Of course. When do you want to go?" "Today." Now, Emily was already standing. "Can you take me to the bus station?" "I can take you to Harrisburg," Robert offered. "It's a few hours' drive, but it's faster than the bus." Emily gratefully accepted. Within minutes, they were on the road. Noah slept peacefully in his car seat in the back. Emily was quiet most of the way, looking out the window, lost in thought. "I was so angry with him," she said suddenly. "When I ran away, I swore I never wanted to see him again. And now he's sick, and you realize you still care," Robert finished. "It's normal. But what if I'm too late? What if he—" She couldn't finish the sentence. "Don't think about that. We'll make it in time." Robert tried to reassure her, but he was worried too. They arrived in Harrisburg in the late afternoon. Emily directed him to her parents' house, a large building in an upscale neighborhood. When they parked in front, Emily hesitated. "Do you want me to come in with you?" Robert offered. "No, this is something I need to do alone." Emily unbuckled her seatbelt. "But can you wait, in case I need you?" "I'll be right here." Emily picked up Noah and got out of the car. He walked to the front door and rang the bell. Barbara opened it, and upon seeing her daughter there, she hugged her tightly, crying. Robert watched the two go inside. He waited in the pickup truck, not knowing how long it would take. After an hour, the door opened again. Emily came out with Noah. Barbara was behind her, waving. Emily got into the car, her face wet with tears but with a calmer expression. "How did it go?" Robert asked. "Difficult, but necessary." Emily adjusted Noah in the car seat. "I talked to my father. He is really sick, but he's being treated. The doctors are optimistic." "That's good." "He apologized," Emily continued, "for everything, for not supporting me, for being too harsh. He said that almost losing him made him realize what's important." "And you made peace?" "Yes," Emily smiled through her tears. "He met Noah, held his grandson for the first time. It was perfect." "I'm happy for you." "My mother wants me to stay for a few days, help with my father, spend time with the family." Emily looked at Robert. "Do you mind?" "Of course not. Stay as long as you need." Thank you. For everything. For bringing me here. For helping me from the start. I don't know how I'll repay you." "You don't need to repay anything." Robert started the pickup truck. Friends help each other. That's how it works. Emily stayed in Harrisburg for 2 weeks. Robert returned to the farm alone, going back to the loneliness that had been his companion for so long. But now it was different. Now he knew it wasn't permanent. Emily would come back. Sarah visited regularly. He had people in his life again. During those 2 weeks, Robert reflected a lot about how his life had changed since that morning he found Emily in the barn, how a single action, a single moment of kindness had triggered so many changes. Sarah came to spend a whole weekend at the farm. It was the first time she had stayed since she was a child. Father and daughter talked at length, healing old wounds, creating new memories. "You know what I realized," Sarah said while they had coffee on the porch. "You were always good at taking care of others. You just didn't know how to take care of yourself." "What do you mean?" "You lost yourself when you separated from Mom. You thought you had failed as a husband and ended up convincing yourself you had failed as a father too. So you pulled away, because you thought it was better for me." "I really thought that." "But it wasn't." Sarah held his hand. "I needed you. Even imperfect, even making mistakes sometimes. I needed my father. Sorry I didn't realize that sooner." "What matters is that you realize it now," Sarah smiled. "And we still have time. A lot of time ahead." When Emily returned from Harrisburg, she brought news. She had decided to move back, to stay close to her family while her father recovered. But she promised to keep in touch with Robert, to visit him regularly. "You're part of our family now," she said on the day she left. "Noah will know Grandpa Robert, even from afar." "Grandpa Robert," he repeated, liking how it sounded. "Are you sure it's not too early for him to call me Grandpa?" "It's never too early for family." Emily hugged him tightly. "Thank you for saving me, in every way." Robert watched Tyler's pickup truck, which had come to pick up Emily and Noah, drive away down the road. He stood on the porch, waving until he could no longer see them. The farm fell silent again. But it was a different silence now. It was a silence of rest, not of abandonment. Robert knew that Sarah would visit soon, that Emily would call to share news about Noah, that he had an extended family now, united by unlikely circumstances, but held together by genuine love. Months passed. Noah grew, started holding his head up, smiling. Emily kept her promise to stay in touch, sending photos and videos every week. Tyler surprised everyone by proving to be a dedicated father, present in all the important moments. Emily's father recovered from his treatment. Her family grew stronger through the crisis. Barbara and Emily developed a relationship they had never had before, based on mutual respect rather than obligation. Sarah began visiting the farm every month. Sometimes she brought her new boyfriend, a young man named Daniel who worked at the same architecture firm. Robert liked him immediately, seeing how he treated Sarah with affection and respect. 1 year after that rainy morning when everything began, Emily returned to the farm for a visit. She brought the whole family, Noah, now 1 year old and starting to take his first steps, Tyler, Barbara, and even her father, Richard, already recovered. Sarah was also there with Daniel. Jennifer had been invited and agreed to come, bringing her new husband. Everyone gathered at the farm to celebrate Noah's first birthday. Robert looked around the crowded porch, hearing laughter and lively conversations. The house that had been so silent for so long now vibrated with life. This was what had been missing all those years. Emily approached him, Noah in her arms. "Would you like to hold him?" she offered. "He's looking for his grandpa." Robert took the boy, who recognized him and smiled. Noah was getting heavy, growing too fast. He was wearing a party outfit, all dressed up for the occasion. "Hard to believe it's been a year," Robert commented. "I know. It feels like just yesterday you found me in the barn." Emily looked toward the old building at the back of the property. "Sometimes I still think about what would have happened if you hadn't heard my moans that morning. But I did hear, and everything happened as it should." "You saved my life," Emily said seriously. "You saved Noah's life, and I will never forget that." "You saved mine too," Robert replied. "You gave me back my daughter. You gave me a family again. You gave me a purpose." Emily hugged him, careful not to squeeze Noah between them. Sarah saw them and came to join the hug. Then Barbara, then Tyler with his son in his arms. The whole family crowded into a group hug, laughing and crying at the same time. When they separated, Barbara had a proposal. "I think we should do this every year," she said. "Gather here at the farm, celebrate Noah's birthday, but also celebrate this family we've created." Everyone agreed. It was perfect. Oak Ridge Farm would become the meeting place, the center of this unconventional yet deeply connected family. They sang happy birthday to Noah, who was fascinated by the lit candle on the cake. They ate, talked, and took pictures. The children ran around the yard while the adults relaxed on the porch. When the sun began to set, painting the sky orange and pink, Robert sat in the rocking chair that had been his father's, and before that his grandfather's. Sarah sat in a chair beside him, and Emily in the other. "You know what's funny?" Sarah said. "A year ago, I wasn't speaking to you. Emily was running away from her family. Tyler had abandoned his son. We were all a mess." "And now?" Emily asked. "Now we're a family," Sarah smiled. "A strange one, but perfect, just the way it is." "Life is like that," Robert observed. "Sometimes the worst moment leads to the best outcome. You just need the courage to face it." "And to have people willing to help," Emily added. "People like you." "I didn't do anything special," Robert insisted. "I just couldn't stand by and do nothing." "And that's exactly what changed everything," Sarah said. "If you had just called an ambulance and left Emily with the paramedics, none of this would have happened. But you stayed. You cared." Robert didn't know what to say. He sat there, watching the sun go down, his family gathered around him. Noah slept in Tyler's arms, exhausted from playing. Barbara and Richard were speaking quietly. Jennifer and her husband were getting ready to leave, waving to everyone. That night, after everyone had left, Robert was alone on the porch again. But the loneliness was different now. It was chosen, not imposed. He had people in his life. He had his daughter back. He had friends who had become family. He looked at the old shed dimly lit by the moonlight. That was where it had all begun. That old, almost collapsing building that he had always planned to renovate but never found the motivation to do. He decided it was time. He would renovate the shed, turn it into something useful, perhaps a space for family gatherings, or a place for Noah to play when he got older, or simply a symbol of new beginnings. The next day, Robert started working on the shed. Sarah, who had stayed one more day, helped. They worked side by side, cleaning the space, removing the old and dangerous beams, planning the renovation. "Remember when I was little and came here with you?" Sarah asked while sweeping. "You let me hold the hammer even though it was too heavy for me. I remember you wanted to be a carpenter when you grew up." "I ended up becoming an architect. It's not so different," Sarah smiled. "I still build things, just on paper first." "You could draw up the plans for the shed," Robert suggested. "Make it something professional." "I'd love to." Sarah's eyes lit up. "I can do a complete design, with all the measurements, necessary materials, even a cost estimate." They spent the whole afternoon there, father and daughter working together, talking about everything and nothing. It was as if the 4 years of silence had never happened, or perhaps they would always be there, a shadow in the past, but no longer controlling the present. 2 weeks later, Sarah returned with the complete plans. She had done an impressive job, transforming the old shed into something modern, but that kept the rustic charm. It included a large space for gatherings, a barbecue grill, even a small playground for children. "This is going to cost a fortune," Robert commented upon seeing the materials list. "You don't have to do it all at once," Sarah said. "You can do it in stages. Start with the basics and add things over time." Robert decided to do exactly that. With the money that Barbara had insisted on paying, he had a good start. He hired some workers from the area and began the renovation. Emily came to visit during the process. Noah was already walking better, running around the farm while Emily tried to keep up. She was impressed with the progress on the shed. "It's looking beautiful," she said, observing the changes. "Noah is going to love playing here when it's finished." "It's really for him," Robert admitted, "and for Sarah, and for all of you. A place where our family can gather." "Our family," Emily repeated. liking the words. "I never thought I'd have such a big family. And so different." "Different how?" "We don't share the same genes. We didn't grow up together. But we chose each other," Emily explained. "And that makes it more special in a way." Robert agreed. There was something precious about a chosen family, united by choice and not by obligation. Tyler also visited when he could. He and Robert had developed a respectful relationship. Tyler still had a lot to prove, but he was on the right path. He worked 2 jobs to be able to pay generous child support for Noah, and he never missed a scheduled visit. "Thank you for giving him this chance," Tyler said to Robert during one of these visits. "Many people wouldn't have given it. They would have judged by past mistakes." "Everyone deserves a second chance," Robert replied. "I myself have received several. It would be hypocritical not to give one to you." "Even so, I'm grateful." The months continued to pass. The shed renovation progressed. Sarah visited whenever possible, sometimes staying for entire weeks working remotely from the farm. She and Daniel got engaged, and Robert cried when she told him. He would be her father at the wedding, something he never thought would happen. Emily got a good job in Harrisburg in the administration field. She and Tyler lived in separate homes, but shared custody of Noah. The boys spent half the week with each and seemed happy and well-adjusted. Emily's father recovered completely. He and Robert became friends, talking about farms and business, exchanging parenting stories. Richard visited Oak Ridge Farm frequently, sometimes helping with the barn renovation. Barbara became a constant presence in everyone's lives. She loved being a grandmother and spoiled Noah whenever she could. She also developed a special fondness for Robert, seeing in him the kindness that had saved her daughter. 2 years after that rainy morning, the barn was finished. Sarah had designed it, Robert had supervised the construction, and the whole family had contributed in some way. The result was impressive, a spacious and welcoming space, perfect for family gatherings. They held a big opening party. They invited all their friends and relatives, neighbors from the area, even the nurses from the hospital who had taken care of Noah. The farm was full of people, with music, food, and lots of joy. During the party, Robert found a quiet moment on the house porch. He was watching everyone in the new barn when Emily joined him. "What are you thinking about?" she asked, Noah sleeping in her arms. "About how everything has changed," Robert answered. 2 years ago, I woke up alone, worked alone, slept alone. It was just me and the animals. And now I have this," he indicated the party. "I have a bigger family than I ever had. I have purpose. I have joy. I have a future." "You created all this," Emily said, "with your kindness, your patience, your willingness to help." "No," Robert shook his head. "It was you. You appeared in my life when I needed it most, even without knowing. You forced me to open my heart again, to try again. You saved me as much as I saved you." Emily leaned over and kissed his cheek. "Then we saved each other," she said, "and created something beautiful together." Noah chose that moment to wake up. He opened his little eyes and saw Robert, and immediately reached his little arms out to him. Robert took him in his arms, and the boy snuggled against his chest, still sleepy. "Grandpa," murmured Noah, one of the first words he had learned. Robert's heart filled with so much emotion it almost hurt. Having a grandson, even if not by blood, was something he had never imagined. And now there he was, with that boy in his arms, calling him Grandpa. "Let's go to the party, little one," he said softly. "There are lots of people waiting to see you." The 3 of them went down to the barn together. The party continued late into the night. The children played on the new playground while the adults talked and danced. It was a celebration not just of the barn, but of everything they had built together in those 2 years. When everyone had finally left and the farm returned to silence, Robert stayed awake thinking about how life could change in unexpected ways. How a single morning, a single act of kindness, could trigger a series of events that transformed everything. If he had ignored the moans coming from the barn that morning, if he had just called an ambulance and left Emily with strangers, if he hadn't offered his home, his time, his heart, none of this would have happened. But he hadn't ignored it. He had chosen to care. And that choice had changed not only Emily and Noah's lives, but his own. It had returned him to himself. The years kept passing. Noah grew up fast, like all children. By the age of 3, she was already talking non-stop, always asking questions about everything. She loved visiting the farm, chasing the chickens and feeding the horses. She called the place Grandpa's house and was always sad when she had to leave. Sarah married Daniel in a beautiful ceremony at the farm itself. Robert walked her to the makeshift altar in the garden, his chest puffed with pride. When he handed her over to Daniel, he whispered, "Take good care of her. She's my most precious treasure." "I will," Daniel promised. "I'm very lucky to have her." The wedding was memorable. All their friends and family were there, celebrating the love and union. Emily was the maid of honor, wearing an elegant dress that Barbara had insisted on paying for. Noah was the ring-bearer, carrying the rings on a little white pillow, all serious and focused so as not to drop them. During the party, Jennifer approached Robert. They had made peace years ago, but still kept a respectful distance. "Thank you," she said suddenly. "For what?" "For coming back into Sarah's life, for being the father she needed." Jennifer looked at her daughter dancing with her new husband. "She's happy, and part of that is because of you." "She always deserved to be happy," Robert replied. "It just took me a while to understand my role in that." "But you did, and that's what matters." Jennifer hugged him, a hug of forgiveness and closure. When they parted, Robert felt as if an old weight had finally been lifted from his shoulders. There were no more resentments, no more hard feelings, only acceptance and peace. A few months after the wedding, Sarah shared news that made Robert radiant. She was pregnant. He was going to have a blood grandchild, a real continuation of the family. "How do you feel?" Daniel asked, seeing the emotion on Robert's face. "Blessed," was all he could say. Sarah's pregnancy was smooth. She worked until the 8th month, then took leave, and went to spend the final days at the farm with her father. She wanted the baby to be born nearby, at the same hospital where Noah was born. Emily visited frequently during this time. She and Sarah had long conversations about motherhood, sharing experiences and fears. Noah, now 4 years old, was excited about the idea of having a cousin. "I'm going to teach him how to play," he declared seriously. "I'm going to be the best cousin in the world." "I'm sure you will," Emily laughed, ruffling his hair. Sarah's baby was born on a clear September morning, a girl named Olivia. Robert was in the waiting room when Daniel came out with the news, and he immediately asked to see his granddaughter. When he held Olivia for the first time, tears flowed freely. She was perfect, with her little eyes closed and a serene expression. She weighed much more than Noah when he was born, and was visibly healthy. "Hello, Olivia," he whispered. "I'm your grandpa, and I will love you forever." Sarah watched from the hospital bed, tired but happy. Seeing her father holding her daughter was something she had dreamed of for years, especially during the times they weren't speaking. And now it was really happening. "Thank you, Dad," she said, her voice choked. "For what?" "For coming back. For being here. For being the grandpa Olivia will need." "I'm not going anywhere," Robert promised. "This time, I will be present for all the important moments." And he was. When Olivia took her first steps, Robert was there filming. When she said her first word, which was grandpa to his pride, he was there. At birthdays, parties, and ordinary days, he was always present. Emily also remained an important part of the family. Noah and Olivia grew up like true cousins, playing together whenever they met. Tyler had proven to be an excellent father, and he and Emily maintained a cordial and functional relationship for the sake of their son. When Noah turned 6, something unexpected happened. Tyler asked Emily to marry him. She was shocked, not knowing how to respond. "You don't have to answer right now," Tyler said, "but think about it. We work well together. Noah loves us. And I never stopped loving you, Emily, even when I was a coward and ran away." Emily sought out Robert to talk. She went to the farm alone, leaving Noah with Barbara, needing advice. "I don't know what to do," she confessed, sitting on the porch. Part of me still holds a grudge for what he did. But another part sees how he's changed, how he's become a good father. The question is, Robert said calmly, do you still love him? I don't know. Emily ran her hands over her face. I care for him. I respect him. But love? The kind you marry for? I don't know. Then the answer is no. For now, at least. Robert looked at her. Marriage without true love doesn't work. Believe me, I learned that the hard way. And if I never love him again, Noah deserves to have his parents together. Noah deserves to have happy parents, Robert corrected. Together or apart. Children notice when something isn't right. It's better to have separated and happy parents than together and miserable ones. Emily thought about his words for several days. In the end, she decided to refuse Tyler's proposal. She honestly explained that she wasn't in love, that it wouldn't be fair to either of them. Tyler was sad but understood. He promised to continue being a good father to Noah, and he did. Life went on. Robert turned 70, surrounded by family. They threw a big party at the farm with decorations, live music, and lots of food. Over 100 people showed up to celebrate. 70 years, Sarah joked during the speech, and only now have you learned how to really live. Everyone laughed, but there was truth in that. Robert had wasted so many years in loneliness, in regret. But the last few years had made up for everything. He was surrounded by love, by family, by purpose. During the party, Richard, Emily's father, made a moving toast. I want to thank Robert for saving my daughter and my grandson, he said, raising his glass. But more than that, I want to thank him for teaching us what family means. It's not about blood or last names, it's about choosing to be present, choosing to care. Robert chose that every day, and he made all of us a better family. There was applause and tears. Robert was speechless, just nodding in thanks. He looked around and saw all those people he loved, all there because of a choice he had made years ago. Barbara also gave a speech, talking about how Robert had taken care of Emily when her own family had failed, how he had been more than a friend, he had been a safe harbor in a storm. When the party was over and everyone had left, Robert stayed on the porch as he always did. But this time he wasn't alone. Emily stayed with him, the two in comfortable silence. You know what I realized today, Emily said. You've created a legacy, not of land or money, but of kindness. All these people, all these lives you've touched, that's your legacy. I never thought about a legacy, Robert admitted. I just did what I thought was right. And that's exactly why it's so special, Emily held his hand. You didn't do it expecting recognition or gratitude. You did it because you couldn't do otherwise. Robert squeezed her hand, grateful for that friendship which had become so fundamental in his life. The years continued. Noah started school and proved to be a smart and kind boy. Olivia grew up surrounded by love, a happy and curious child. Sarah and Daniel decided to have another child, a boy they named Ethan. The farm became the family's central gathering place. Every Sunday there was lunch, with everyone bringing different dishes. The children ran around the yard, the adults talked on the porch, and there was always laughter and joy. Robert, even as he grew older, continued working on the farm. Not as much as before, but enough to stay active. Sarah worried, saying he should rest more, but he refused. The day I stop working is the day I start dying, he'd say. As long as I have strength, I'll do what I love. And he loved that land, that life. Even with all the changes, the essence remained the same. The smell of the earth after rain, the sound of birds in the morning, the feeling of peace only the countryside could provide. When Robert turned 75, he received an unexpected surprise. Noah, now 11, had prepared something special. With help from Emily and Sarah, he'd made a photo album telling the whole story. It began with a photo of the old shed before the renovation. Then came photos of Emily pregnant in the hospital, of newborn Noah in the incubator. Photos of the farm, the parties, the family gatherings. Each page told a piece of the story. On the last page, Noah had written in his own handwriting, "Grandpa Robert, you saved my mother when she needed it most, and saved me before I was even born. Thank you for being the best grandfather in the world. I love you more than anything. Noah. Robert cried when he read that. He hugged Noah tightly, unable to speak. The boy returned the hug, understanding without needing words. You'll keep this album forever, right, Grandpa? Noah asked. Forever, Robert promised. It's the most precious gift I've ever received. That night, alone in his room, Robert leafed through the album several times. He looked at each photo, read each caption. His entire life was there, condensed into pages. And it was a beautiful life, despite all the mistakes and difficulties. He thought about how everything had begun. That rainy morning, the moans coming from the shed, the decision to investigate. If he had done differently, none of that would exist. Noah wouldn't be in his life. Sarah might never have returned. The farm would remain quiet and empty. But he had made the right choice. He had chosen to care, chosen to help, chosen to open his heart even while afraid of getting hurt again. And that choice had transformed everything. Over the years, Robert's health began to weaken. Nothing serious, just the weight of age. Joint pains, tiring more quickly, his eyesight getting weak. Sarah insisted he go to the doctor regularly, and he obeyed so as not to worry her. Emily also worried. She called every day to see how he was, visited whenever she could. She was afraid of losing him, that man who had been her savior, her friend, her chosen family. I'm not going anywhere anytime soon, Robert always assured. I still have much to see. Noah grow up, Olivia graduate, Ethan take his first steps. I won't miss any of that. And he kept his promise. He continued to be present at all important occasions. When Noah joined the school soccer team, Robert was there at every game. When Olivia won a prize for a drawing, Robert framed it and hung it in the living room. When Ethan said his first full sentence, Robert was there to hear and applaud. The farm also continued to be the center of everything. Sarah and Daniel started spending more time there, eventually deciding to build a house at the back of the property. They wanted their children to grow up near their grandfather, with space to play and nature around. Robert loved the idea. He helped with what he could in the planning, gave suggestions about where to build. Seeing the farm fill with life again, with children running and laughing, was all he had ever wanted. When the house was finished, Sarah and her family moved in. Suddenly the farm had 2 houses, 2 families, but it remained one. They had breakfast together, dinner together, shared daily life. Emily visited so often that Robert joked she should build a 3rd house on the property. She laughed and said she was considering it. Tyler was always welcome too, and had developed a respectful friendship with Robert. One afternoon, when Robert was alone on the porch, Barbara showed up unexpectedly. She came often as well, but usually gave notice beforehand. "May I speak with you?" she asked, looking nervous. "Of course. Have a seat here." Barbara sat down, her hands clasped in her lap. She stayed quiet for a moment, as if searching for the right words. "I wanted to thank you," she finally began, "not only for saving Emily and Noah, but for teaching me how to be a better mother." "You've always been a good mother," Robert said. "No, I wasn't," Barbara shook her head. "I was controlling, rigid, more concerned with appearances than with my daughter's feelings. But seeing how you treated Emily, with respect and kindness, made me realize my mistakes." "We all make mistakes." "Yes, but not everyone learns from them." Barbara looked at him. "You taught me that true love is about supporting, not controlling. And I'm trying to be like that now, with Emily, with Noah, even with Richard." "And you're doing a great job," Robert assured her. "Emily always speaks highly of you." "Really?" Barbara seemed relieved. "Yes, she says you have the relationship she always wanted to have." Barbara began to cry, tears of relief and happiness. Robert offered her a handkerchief, which she accepted gratefully. "Sorry," she said, wiping her eyes. "I get emotional about these things." "No need to apologize. It's good to feel." They talked for hours that afternoon. Barbara told him about her marriage, about how she had changed since she almost lost Emily. Richard had changed too, becoming more present and loving. The scare of the illness had shaken them both, made them reevaluate their priorities. When Barbara left, Robert felt good. He liked knowing that he had positively impacted not only Emily but her entire family. It was further proof that small actions could have big consequences. The years kept passing. Noah entered his teenage years, growing taller than Emily. He was a good boy, polite, who helped around the house and did well in school. He had inherited his mother's kindness and, in a way, Robert's too. Olivia was 8 years old, a smart and curious girl who loved to draw. She spent hours in the barn sketching the farm, the animals, the family. Sarah said she had talent, that she might pursue an artistic career. Ethan was 4 years old and pure energy. He ran everywhere, always asking questions, always looking for adventures. Robert found it amusing, saying the boy reminded him of Sarah when she was little. One day, when Robert was feeding the chickens, Noah appeared wanting to talk. He had a serious expression on his face, unusual for him. "May I ask you something, Grandpa?" "Of course, Noah. What is it?" "How did you know you should help my mom that day?" the boy asked. "In the barn, when you found her. You could have called someone and left, but you didn't. Why?" Robert stopped what he was doing, thinking about the question. "It wasn't a conscious decision," he explained. "It was more of an instinct. I saw someone needing help and couldn't turn my back." "But many people turn their backs," Noah observed. "Every day people see someone in need and pretend it's not their problem." "That's true, and I won't lie, Noah. There was a moment when I thought about doing exactly that. I thought it wasn't my problem, that I had my own life to take care of." "What made you change your mind?" Robert thought back to that morning so many years ago. "I think it was seeing the fear in your mother's eyes," he said. "She was so scared, so alone. And I remembered how alone I felt after the divorce. I didn't want anyone to feel that way, not if I could do something about it. So it was empathy," Noah concluded. "You put yourself in her place." "Exactly. That's what we need to do more in the world. Trying to understand how others feel, what they need." Robert placed his hand on the boy's shoulder. "Why are you asking this?" Noah hesitated, then explained. "There was a new boy at school, from another town. The other students were bullying him, calling him names, excluding him from groups. Noah didn't know if he should get involved or not. "What is your heart telling you?" Robert asked. "That I should help, but I'm afraid the others might turn against me too." "Fear is normal. Courage isn't about not being afraid, it's about acting despite it." Robert crouched down to Noah's level. "Do you think it's the right thing to do?" "I think so." "Then do it. And if you need support, I'm here. Your mother too. The whole family." Noah nodded, looking more decided. The next day he sat next to the new boy at lunch. He talked to him, became friends. Others saw and some followed his example. The bullying decreased. When Emily found out, she was incredibly proud. She called Robert, crying with happiness. "He's becoming such a good man," she said, "and it's because of you, for being that example for him." "It's because of you too," Robert corrected. "You raised him with love and the right values. I just complimented." "We raised him together," Emily said. "You, me, Tyler, the whole family. He's the result of all of us." And it was true. Noah had been raised by a village, as the saying goes. He had multiple role models, multiple influences, all positive. He was a lucky boy, and he was becoming an admirable young man. Over time, Robert noticed he was getting tired more easily. He needed more breaks during work, slept more in the afternoon. Sarah got worried and insisted he see a doctor. The tests revealed his heart was weak. Nothing critical yet, but it needed care. Medicine, diet, less physical effort. Robert grumbled about the restrictions but obeyed. Emily was terrified when she found out. She came running to the farm, Noah with her. She hugged Robert tightly, crying. "You can't get sick," she said between sobs. "I still need you. Noah needs you." "I'm not dying," Robert reassured. "I just need to be more careful. I'll be around for quite some time yet." But everyone knew he was aging. It was natural, inevitable. Robert was 80 years old now. He had lived a long life, especially the last 15 years, which had been extraordinary. The family organized themselves to ensure he was never alone. Sarah was always nearby, living on the same property. Emily visited at least twice a week. Barbara and Richard also came by constantly. There was always someone to talk to keep him company, to help if needed. One afternoon, Robert was on the porch when he saw an unfamiliar car arriving. It was a nice, new car. A woman got out and it took Robert a second to recognize her. It was Jennifer, but not the usual Jennifer, confident and well put together. This Jennifer seemed smaller, more fragile. She walked slowly to the porch, her hands trembling. "Robert," she said, her voice weak. "Can I talk to you?" "Of course. Is everything all right?" Jennifer came up on the porch and sat down, and then Robert saw. She was much thinner than the last time, her face pale. Something was wrong. "I'm sick," she said bluntly. "The doctors think I have a year left, maybe less." Robert felt as if he had been punched. Even with all the complicated past, Jennifer had been important in his life, the mother of his daughter, his first wife. "Jennifer, I'm so sorry. I didn't come here for pity," she said quickly. "I came because I need to ask you something. Anything. Take care of Sarah." Jennifer's eyes filled with tears. "When I'm no longer here, I know you do, but I'll need you to take even more care. She's going to suffer a lot when I'm gone." "Don't worry. I'll be here for her," Robert promised. "And there's something else." Jennifer took a deep breath. "I want to apologize for making things so difficult after the divorce, for keeping Sarah away from you. It was cruel and unnecessary." "You've been forgiven for a long time," Robert said sincerely. "Really? Really? Holding grudges only hurts us. I learned to let go." Jennifer started crying for real now. Robert stood up and hugged her, letting her cry on his shoulder. When she calmed down, they talked for hours, about the past, about regrets, about Sarah. "She's an amazing woman," Jennifer said with pride. "Despite all our mistakes, she turned out well." "Because you raised her well," Robert assured. "You were a good mother, Jennifer. Sarah always says that." "Even after everything?" "Especially after everything." When Jennifer left, Robert was shaken. The news of her illness had affected him more than he expected. He told Sarah that night, who broke down in tears. The following months were difficult. Jennifer worsened quickly. Sarah spent a lot of time with her, trying to cherish every moment. Robert supported as best he could, taking care of the children when needed, offering a shoulder for Sarah to cry on. Jennifer passed away on a quiet spring morning, surrounded by Sarah and her husband. Sarah called Robert immediately, and he went straight to the hospital. He hugged his daughter while she cried, holding her tight. The funeral was large. Many people had liked Jennifer. Robert attended, sat in the back, paid his respects. When it ended, Sarah went to him. "Thank you for coming," she said. "I'll always be here when you need me." "I know, Dad, and that means everything to me." It took Sarah months to recover from the loss. Robert was by her side the whole time, being the strength she needed. Emily also helped a lot. Having gone through losses of her own, she understood the pain. Slowly, Sarah started smiling again. Life went on, as it always does. The children grew up, new happy moments were created. The pain of loss didn't disappear completely, but it became easier to bear. On Robert's 83rd birthday, the family organized a surprise celebration. When he entered the barn, dozens of people shouted "Surprise!" There were balloons, banners, a huge food table. "You didn't have to do this," he said, moved. "Of course we did," Emily replied. "You have a birthday once a year, and every year with you is precious." The party was beautiful. There were 3 generations there, all united by love for that man who had touched so many lives. Noah, now 16, gave a moving speech. "Grandpa Robert taught me that family isn't about blood," he said. "It's about choice, about being present, about loving unconditionally. He chose my mom and me when he had no obligation to, and that choice changed our lives forever." There were applause and tears. Olivia and Ethan also spoke, each sharing special memories with their grandfather. Sarah closed the speeches, talking about the father she had lost and found again, about second chances and love that overcomes everything. When the party ended, Robert was exhausted, but happy. He sat on the porch with Emily, as they always did. 83 years, she said. "Who would have thought?" "I didn't imagine I'd make it here," Robert admitted, "especially not surrounded by so much love." "You deserve every second of it." Emily held his hand. "Every smile, every hug, every moment. You deserve it all." "We're lucky, you and I," Robert said. "We found each other when we both needed it, and we built something beautiful." "The most beautiful thing," Emily agreed. They stayed there until late, talking about everything and nothing. When Emily left, Robert remained on the porch alone. He looked at the stars. Thinking about everything he had lived through, he thought about his youth, his marriage, the bitter divorce, about the years of loneliness, of regret. And then, on that rainy morning that changed everything, Emily trapped in the barn calling for help. He could have ignored it, but he didn't. And that choice had created a chain reaction of love and connection. Now, at 83, Robert could say with certainty that he had lived well. He had made many mistakes, had suffered quite a bit. But he had also loved deeply, had been loved in return, had made a difference in people's lives. If he could go back and change something, would he? Maybe yes. Maybe he would have fought more for Sarah in the beginning, not let so much time pass. But the past was past. What mattered was the present, and the present was good. Robert's final years were peaceful. He spent most of his time on the farm, surrounded by family. He didn't work anymore. His body wouldn't allow it. But he supervised, gave advice, told stories to the children. Noah entered university, studying agriculture. He wanted to follow in his grandfather's footsteps, work with the land. Robert was extremely proud, spending hours teaching everything he knew to his grandson. Olivia decided to be an artist, her paintings already winning small local awards. Ethan showed interest in architecture, like his mother, everyone finding their paths, building their futures. Emily finally met someone new. A good man named Michael, a widower with 2 adult children. They understood each other, started dating slowly. Tyler gave his blessing, happy that Emily found happiness. When Emily told Robert about Michael, he smiled. "That's what life is about," he said. "To keep trying, to keep opening yourself to love. I'm happy for you." "You're not going to be jealous?" Emily joked. "You always said I was your adoptive daughter. And you still are. But every daughter deserves to be happy. And if Michael makes you happy, then he has my approval." Emily hugged the old friend, grateful for his constant support. One morning, when Robert turned 86, he woke up feeling that something was different. It wasn't pain, it wasn't discomfort. It was more a feeling of completion, as if a cycle was closing. He got up slowly, dressed calmly. He went to the kitchen where Sarah was already preparing coffee. "Good morning, Dad," she smiled. "Happy birthday." "Good morning, daughter." They had coffee together, talking about small things. Sarah said that everyone would come later for a small celebration. Nothing big, just the close family. After coffee, Robert asked to take a walk around the farm. Sarah wanted to go along, but he said he preferred to go alone. She hesitated but agreed. Robert walked slowly through the property. He visited every corner, every place that held memories. The stables where the horses used to be, the noisy chicken coop, the barn that had been renovated and become the heart of the family. He stopped at the barn for a long time. He looked to where Emily had been trapped so many years ago. He could still see her there, young and scared, pregnant and alone. He could still feel the urgency of that moment, the need to help. That choice had defined the rest of his life. It had brought Emily and Noah, and through them, he had regained Sarah. He had gained grandchildren, friends, a huge and loving family. It was worth every second, every moment of worry, every sleepless night, every tear shed. It was all worth it. He continued walking until he reached the back fence, from where he could see the entire property. The sun was high now, illuminating everything with a golden light. It was a beautiful day. He sat on a fallen log, resting. He closed his eyes, feeling the sun on his face, hearing the sounds of the farm. Birds singing, wind in the trees, life happening around him. That's how Sarah found him an hour later. Sitting on the log, his face peaceful, a small smile on his lips. He had passed in peace, in the place he loved, surrounded by happy memories. Sarah fell to her knees beside her father, holding his hand. She cried, but through the tears she also smiled. Because she knew he had departed happy, he had lived a full life in his final years, had fixed his mistakes, had loved and been loved. Robert Anderson's funeral was enormous. Hundreds of people showed up to pay their respects. Not just family, but neighbors, friends, people he had helped over the years. Each with a story to tell, a memory to share. Emily gave the main speech, barely able to speak through her tears. "Robert Anderson saved my life," she said. "Not just physically, but in every way. He gave me shelter when I had none. He gave me hope when I had lost it. He gave me family when I was alone. And through him, I learned what true kindness means." Noah also spoke, now a 19-year-old young man. "My grandfather wasn't perfect," he said. He said so himself. He had flaws, he had regrets, but he chose to be better. He chose to try again, and that choice made all the difference. For me, for my mother, for all of us. Sarah closed the speeches. "My father taught me that it's never too late to start over," she said, her voice firm despite the tears. "We spent years apart, years wasted. But when he decided to try again, when I decided to forgive, we created something beautiful. The last 15 years with him were the best of my life, and I'm grateful for every second." They buried Robert on the farm itself, in a quiet spot under a large tree. It was what he had asked for. He wanted to stay right there, in the land he loved. In the following days, the family gathered to decide the farm's future. Sarah wanted to keep it, obviously. It was her home now, but she wanted to make sure everyone felt part of it. "This farm belongs to all of us," she said during the meeting. "Dad built this family, this connection, and we will honor his memory by keeping it all together." Everyone agreed. The farm would continue to be the gathering point, the place where the family met, where memories were made. With time, the pain of loss lessened. It didn't disappear, it never disappeared completely, but it became more bearable. The family continued to gather, continued to create happy moments, because that's what Robert would have wanted. Noah graduated in agronomy and started working, helping Sarah maintain the farm. He had the same love for the land as his grandfather. Olivia became a recognized artist, her paintings depicting the farm and the family. Ethan pursued architecture, eventually designing a renovation for the main house. Emily married Michael in a beautiful ceremony at the farm. It was emotional, everyone feeling Robert's presence there in some way. Noah walked his mother down the aisle, proud and happy for her. The years passed, but the memory of Robert remained alive. His legacy wasn't of money or possessions, but of love and kindness. Every person he had touched carried a piece of him, passing on the lessons learned. Olivia, when she became a mother years later, named her first son Robert in honor of his grandfather. Noah did the same with his son. The name continued in the family, a way of keeping the memory alive. And the barn, that structure that had been the beginning of everything, remained the family center, renovated, modernized, but still with its original essence. The children played there, the adults gathered. Life happened. Above the barn door, Sarah had a plaque placed. It simply said, "Where it all began." In memory of Robert Anderson, the man who taught us that family is about choice, not blood, that it's never too late to start over, and that a single act of kindness can change the world. 20 years after that rainy morning when Robert found Emily, the farm was more alive than ever. 3 generations played in the yard, 4 if you included the great-grandchildren who were starting to appear. Emily, now in her early 40s, sat on the porch of the big house in the same spot where she used to sit with Robert. Noah was by her side, already a grown man with a family of his own. "You know what I miss most about him?" Emily asked. "The way he always knew what to say. Or when he didn't, he'd stay quietly by my side until I felt better." He was special, Noah agreed. The quiet type the world needed. "And he managed to create an incredible legacy." Emily looked around. "Look at all this family, this unity. It all started because he couldn't ignore someone asking for help." "I think that's the greatest lesson," Noah said, "that our choices matter. One choice, One moment, one action. It can change everything. And he chose right. Emily smiled through the tears that always came when she thought of Robert. He chose to help me when he had no obligation to, and he changed my life, changed yours, changed so many lives. Now it's our responsibility to pass this forward, Noah said, to teach our children what he taught us, about kindness, about family, about making the right choice even when it's hard. Emily agreed. That was exactly what they would do. Robert's legacy would continue, passed down from generation to generation, not through money or property, but through values, through love. As the sun set over the farm, painting the sky with vibrant colors, Emily closed her eyes and felt a deep peace. She had begun her journey lost, scared, alone, and she had found not just shelter, but a home. Not just help, but a family. All because a lonely man heard moans coming from an old shed and decided to investigate. A simple choice, a moment of compassion, and an entire life changed. End of story. Now tell us what you thought of this story and where you're watching from. Were you moved by Robert and Emily's journey? Share your honest thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss other touching stories we'll be sharing. Your participation means a lot to us.